Okay, welcome back. So hopefully you got, if I remember right, you had 5 questions that were adding, subtracting, or adding, but you had subtract because of the negatives on some of those. But you had some fractions and some mixed numbers. And now we're going to go ahead and evaluate, and we're going to use a predetermined x and y. And here's what this looks like. On the homework, it'll simply say, get my pen in here, it'll simply say to evaluate. Okay, and evaluate simply means to go ahead and simplify or solve it. And we're going to be working with let's look at an x of 1/3, and we'll use a y of -7/4. Okay, so we're going to look at the first term we're going to evaluate, and we're going to use 2x plus y. And to evaluate that, what you have to do is plug in the predetermined values up here down into this equation. Okay, so as we look at that, this is 2 times x and then plus y. So let's plug in the x and y. So now it becomes 2. And let's make that x and y so we know what we're working with. Let's make that one an orange. And so x is 1/3, so we're going to put 1/3 in there. And then plus y, and let's make y red. And so plus y, in this case, is -7/4. And we're going to evaluate that. So we're going to see what that equals. So as we're looking at this, the first thing we have to do is we're looking at 2 times 1/3. So you can rewrite that if you need to, if it looks clear, because we can actually say that 2 and 1/3 is the same thing as 2/1 times 1/3. And the nice thing about that is that because we're multiplying now, we don't have to worry about the denominators being the same. So remember, multiplication and division, you simply multiply across the top. And with a division problem later on, again, we'll switch that into a multiplication problem. So in this instance, we're going to look at 2/1, so it's 2 times 1, and then 1 times 3, and that's going to give us the answer that we're looking for. So 2 times 1 is 2, and then 1 times 3 is 3. So this original equation, or original part of this, the 2 times the 1/3, after we substitute it, becomes 2/3. Okay, so we've just done that one part right here. So now let's look at the y. We haven't done anything with that, and so I'm just going to bring it down, and we're going to add that 2/3 to the -7/4. And a lot of times you'll see brackets around these, just so that you know that that term, the 7/4, is negative. So looking at this, now we're back to adding, and this time now we're adding, we have a 3 and a 4, so we've got to change that. So this part right here, we're going to change it so we have the same denominator. So what you're going to want to do is decide which denominator you're going to use. And so looking at 3 and 4, you're looking at the lowest possible number that both of them fit into evenly. And an easy way to do it is, if you get stuck, you can simply multiply them together and use that number. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So 3 times 4 gives us 12. So we're going to use 12 as our common denominator. So we've taken care of that, so that makes it much easier. But now that we've done that, we've changed both of these fractions. So the 2/3 and the -7/4 now are changed because we made the denominator 12. So let's look at the 3. So to get 3 to become 12, we had to multiply that by 4. So we multiplied the top by 4 to get the numerator. So 2 times 4 is going to give us 8. Okay? So same thing on the -7/4. On the 4, I'll swing it down here, we had to multiply that times 3 to get to the 12. So we're also going to multiply that -7 times a 3. So 7 times 3 is 21, and negative positive, it still makes it a -21. Okay, so now we've got through all that mess and we substituted it, we've changed the denominator so that we have the same denominator, and now we're back to what we were working with before, which is this part right here. Okay, so we have these two fractions and we're adding. So we're going to go back to simply go ahead and adding. We've got the same denominator, we know that that denominator is 12. And we're adding, so we keep the same denominator. Now we're adding a positive 8 and a negative 21, and so we have to subtract them because they're two different ones. So if you subtract those two, what you're going to get is 13. And we look at the bigger number, so it's a bigger number 8 or 21, and 21 is the bigger number in this case. So we keep the sign of that one, so that's a negative. So we have negative 13 over 12, and the last step is just putting that back into a mixed number. So 12 goes into 13 just one time, and that leaves 1 left over. So 1/12, and remember that this whole thing is negative. So the answer is negative 1 and 1/12. So a lot of steps in the substitution process when you're going to evaluate that, but the same thing we have been doing. The only thing we did is that at the very top I gave you a predetermined what x was, a predetermined what y was, and you had to plug that into the expression and then go ahead and go through the steps to solve that. So the end product is that negative 1 or 1/12. So that's step 2, or the second section of your homework. You're going to have a few examples of this one, and I will see you back in a few minutes for the final step.